Alright, I think it's time to put this whole Coryphanus business to rest. Because it's giving Sarah nightmares. That's the only reason. This is troubling my girlfriend.
With an Illuvion, Corypheus could cross into the Fade in the flesh.
Indeed, the Inquisitor can attest that these artifacts still work, if one knows how to use them.
What happens when Corypheus enters the Fade?
Why, he will gain his heart's desire and take the power of a god. Or, and this is more likely, the lunatic will unleash forces that tear the world apart.
Reasons for stopping Corypheus have gone from revenge to keep the world intact.
It was always so, was it not? The madman would bury us all.
Pardon me, but does this mean everything's lost unless we get to the Illuvion before him?
Corypheus has a head start, no matter how quickly our army moves.
We should gather our allies before we march. Can we wait for them? We should send our spies ahead to the Arbor Wilds.
Without support from the soldiers, you'd lose half of them.
Then what should we do?
Stop bickering for one.
For starters, we don't let Corypheus worry us to death. Imagine how embarrassing that would be. Josephine, have our allies send scouts to meet us in the wilds. Leliana, your fastest agents will join them. Together, we'll have enough spies to slow down Corypheus's army until Cullen's soldiers arrive.
Such confidence. But the Arbor Wilds are not so kind to visitors. Old elven magic lingers in those woods.
We'd be remiss to not take advantage of your knowledge, Lady Morrigan. Please, lend us your expertise.
'Tis why I came here, although it is good to see its value recognized.
Any further instructions, Inquisitor?
The Inquisition began as a handful of soldiers. Thanks to you, we're now a force that will topple a self-proclaimed god. I could ask for no finer counsel, no better guidance.
I speak for all of us when I answer. We could ask for no finer cause.
We'll hound Corypheus in the wilds before he can find the temple or this Illuvion.
Kind of a very short version of the rallying speech you have in the Mass Effect installments. I can see their writer's influence here. Maybe, you know, now that Mass Effect is done, a few of them migrated over and put in their 2 cents worth. Not that they weren't there all along, but definitely see a kind of a Mass Effect show of hand right there in that little speech. And then the cinematic here, showing the dramatic movement of the troops and everybody basically putting all their cards on the table, playing their one last hand for all the chips. I think that's the gist of this. Josephine getting her politic on. And I guess these would be little scenes kind of summarizing the allies you've obtained through the game, perhaps. Something of that nature. But everybody's down with the cause, I see. I wonder, based on the people that you help or don't help, the things you do or don't do, what changes in these little scenes right here. Like perhaps, you know, one fewer scout to help there or something, I don't know. Also, if we need allies at the end, which ones are present and which ones aren't. Like, maybe you have to face more or fewer enemies based on the amount of help you've obtained through the game or something. Like this right here, maybe fewer troops. I don't know, just guessing. I don't have anything to compare it to.
Inquisitor,
How goes the battle, Captain?
the Red Templars fall beneath our blades, your worship. Commander Cullen says they're nearly finished. Our scouts saw Corypheus traveling towards an elven ruin to the north. We can clear you a path through his armies.
Where's Scout Harding? I miss Scout Harding.
Do only what you must. We need enough people for a celebration when we get back to Skyhold.
We will not fail you, my lady, no matter what comes. Andraste guide you, Inquisitor.
I wonder, is it Andraste your soldiers invoke during battle, or does a more immediate name come to their lips?
Who cares?
Another way to let people down if I falter. Thank you for the reminder.
'Twas not I who raised an army of faithful to storm this land, Inquisitor. But I digress. If your scouts report accurately, I believe these ruins to be the Temple of Mythal.
Which is?
A place of worship out of elven legend. If Corypheus seeks it, then the Illuvian he covets lies within. Let us hope we reach this temple before the entire forest is reduced to ash.
Yeah, I think that was our signal. You know, I think the reason Morgan is like the face of the franchise, that wasn't by accident. Her role, her scheme, whatever she knows or thinks she knows or hasn't shared, or whatever she has planned is going to just play such a major part in this whole thing. She sees a bigger picture than we all do. I know that much. Whether it's the right one or not, I don't know. But I would say she's much more in the know than many others. I had that sense of Meryl also in Dragon Age 2. Even more so now, going back to play, as I actually see her differently as anti-mage as I am for the most part, mainly due to their friggin' behavior more than anything else. The fact that when you expect the worst, you're never disappointed. When you expect the worst, they give it to you. But Meryl, not necessarily being an exception, but you know, I would make something of an exception of Solus here, or Morgan. To a lesser extent, Wynn, although Wynn did fall to the seduction of the spirit, whether that was a pure demon or not, based on our definition or understanding of that, which I don't think is as well defined as we might like it to be. Solus makes that clear, that how we understand spirits and demons is childlike at best. There's much more to it than just simply saying this is good and that's bad. But maybe there are some gray areas there, whatever. Some might argue that Herbert-ass Anders' whole thing with Justice, although I think Justice was a demon pure and simple, by Solus' definition, that's exactly what he would be. You know, a spirit held in this world against his will. You know, out of Anders' own mouth, he confessed that Justice was a spirit trapped in this world. Whatever drew him here, I'm assuming a mage, unless he somehow managed to step out of the Fade into this world on his own and exist here, and then couldn't get back. Maybe, but I don't have any reference to base that on. But I can say most spirits that are here and that would like to go back but can't, or are ones drawn here by mages and turn into demons. They're perverted from their purpose. So whatever he may have been in the Fade, and whatever he thought he still might be here, or whatever words he used to gullible-ass Anders who just wanted to have some sense of self-importance, because I think he knows he's a worthless piece of shit, pervert, freak. I wouldn't doubt before he got inducted into the Wardens that, and I have a lot to base this on, that he wasn't some kind of child molester, pervert, rapist, stalker, serial killer type or something. Got into the Wardens to get out of that, then fled the Wardens because he wanted to go get freaky at the Pearl in Denerim and go off and do his own thing because he's irresponsible and worthless, just worthless. Unreliable, and so on and so forth. I can say a whole lot about that. Going through Dragon Age 2 now, and so much more is even becoming more clear. As bad as I thought he was, he's not half as bad as... I didn't know half of it, honestly. I'm seeing the rest of it now, and it's disgusting. It's absolutely putrid. But, anyway.
If they are forced to obey him, death will be a blessing.
Whatever we think we know about spirits and demons and this and that, it's vague at best, and then I think the overall picture... I've been thinking a lot about this, and I don't wonder if BioWare... I guess I'll just try to simplify what I've been thinking. Kind of hard to put in words, but let's just say there's a power behind Corypheus. There's a power behind the Blight. That they are just tools. You would think, you know, maybe like demons are tools of entities like, you know, Corypheus or, you know, the Archdemon or something like that. But what if the Archdemon and the Elder One themselves are just as much of a tool, just as small a piece in the greater overall game, the greater scheme of things, right? As just your random demon. I mean, in other words, just very, very small parts, and in their own minds, they would think they're huge, that they're the be-all, end-all. Corypheus would like to think himself a god and actually have some answers to anything. Not just, you know, just opening his eyes and looking at the obvious that everything he touches, he destroys. You have to be oblivious to that, or else you'd stop doing what you're doing. And of course, he's not going to do that. He's going to, you know, try to be God and blah, 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 and his pride and his arrogance and his just stupid stubbornness, right? But, what if he's just a small tool and there's a power behind all of these things, like the Blights, Corypheus himself, and all these events are taking place so that whatever power is behind that is so much bigger and outside the knowledge and realm of human understanding and experience, right? That humans can't even see it. And remember, you take a human and you tell him he can't understand something, instead of admitting that, that human will just say, well, whatever that is doesn't exist. Right? If it becomes a question of faith against a human's pride, the human will take pride every time and say, if I can't understand it, it's because it's not. It's not that I'm fallible and that I'm weak and that I can't understand it. That can't possibly be the case. What it has to be is that whatever you're talking about just doesn't exist.
Perhaps these creatures are the reason few return from the Arbor Wilds.
Because humans would say, if I can't understand it, then it just must not be, because anything outside of my understanding is not worth understanding, obviously, because humans are just like that by nature. Pride, and it's a foolish pride, it's a stupid pride. It doesn't make any sense, but humans in general operate on that, you know. And so, you know, it's the reason people are so well, no, I can't say it's the only reason people are anti-religion. Religion is usually the reason people are anti-religion, because religious leans towards, you know, hypocrisy and all that other stuff, you know. Religion in and of itself is offensive. So, you know, I mean, I get that. But the whole subject of faith, in other words, if there's a power at large that's bigger than you are, well, humans don't want to recognize that. Because if there's a power bigger than myself, then that means I'm not God. If there's something that can create things, and I can't, then that means that there's something else that's self-existent and I'm not. That means I must rely on a power greater than myself just to be, much less, you know, do stuff and think. And, you know, mankind doesn't want to accept that. Mankind wants to be self-existent. But every time mankind comes up with a solution to something, and stresses or expresses that solution, it results in the opposite of what that solution was designed for. In other words, our best efforts at peace result in war. Our best effort at solving crime result in the fact you can't walk outside at night anymore. Our best efforts at solving social problems have resulted in more hatred, social injustice, racist, bigotry, double standards, you know, than ever before. Our best efforts at civilization have resulted in probably the most brutal, hypocritical, double standard society that's ever existed. And that's even counting Roman times, you know, that thought they were civilized at the time, but they had their Colosseums. I mean, it's such a double standard. It's so backwards. It's so hypocritical. But those that are in the moment and part of that society, if you say anything, you know, like the truth, people are instantly offended. Oh my God, we're civilized. How can you say that? You know, while they're being more perverted and barbaric than anyone ever stood before them. You know. Anyway, so what I was really thinking is, if there is a force at work behind the Elder One, then it's possible that the whole thing of the Maker, the reason of the Maker and, you know, chantry stuff and whatever, you know, whatever the chantry was originally derived from, what it's become now is just an institution of backstabbing politicians trying to get a one-up so they can have some authority and lead a cushy life and control people, you know, with religious guilt trips and, you know, all the stuff that religious people do, right? But whatever the chantry and, you know, the whole Andraste thing way back when, before history had perverted things, whatever it derived from back then, that power, the whole Maker thing, then if that's the force of good, I mean, there's something that keeps people like the Wardens and the Hawks and the Inquisitors in the Dragon Age universe coming and that enables us to overcome, right? The powers at our disposal, the turns of fate that work in our favor here and there, right? That allow us to just barely scrape by and, you know, conquer evil and keep that evil force from, you know, doing what it wants to do. But like I say, you know, we're as much a tool in this as the Elder One, as far as that goes, and just mankind in general. You know, as big as we like to think we are, if we look at ourselves and take an honest look in the greater scheme of things, what do we see? That we're smaller than a grain of sand. And I think that's the whole point. Is I think the revelations to come, if BioWare is leaning this way. I know I'm being all, you know, real flowery and stuff in my description here, but I'm trying to try to visualize this concept that I'm seeing here is that BioWare might be leaning towards a greater revelation that's bigger than mankind, even collectively, not just individually, but collectively. That's bigger. That's way beyond anything mankind could have even conceived of, and it's going to be so humbling in its revelation that mankind is going to realize that not only did he not have the answer, he wouldn't have been able to grasp the answer had he seen it. Or that the answer may have been there all along, and that he, you know, totally missed it in his arrogance and his pride and his self-centered, you know, lust for, you know, self-preservation and power. That the whole point of the thing was missed from the first place. Is that, you know, if you look back to the original sin, whatever that may have been, I think a lot of the truth of what the original sin actually was may have been lost. But I think the gist of it was you had some men that wanted to go rather than serve God or be part of God's whole plan, whatever the God of the Dragon Age universe winds up being, right? Rather than be part of that, they chose rather to be God. And I think the original sin could probably be pretty easily defined by who says I have to serve you. In turn, what should be a matter of choice into an obligation, even if it wasn't one, right? In other words, if I create you and give you a perfect free will, and it springs up in your head one day, who says I have to be the created one? I want to be the creator. And as soon as that pride sets in, that original sin comes to pass, where that wasn't ever the point. What if the Maker hadn't intended that in the first place? What if he had just essentially wanted company, you know, or something like that? And the original children of the Maker, the very first beings that ever were, whoever they were, right? At least in the Dragon Age universe, what if they took that position of being a created being and took that to a whole nother level and said, I'd rather be the creator, and chose to use the Maker's own powers as gifts, and in their limited understanding and their limited sight, their limited vision, chose to try to use those to usurp God himself. And that's like an ant, you know, looking up at a man and saying, I'm going to crush you, and being so outside of his element that he didn't even know what he was messing with, and setting forces in motion. In other words, being essentially responsible for creating this dark power, which may be behind things like the Elder One and all the blights. What if that was honestly man's fault in the first place? Is that whole darkness is something that sprung up from us rebelling against something that was good when we never needed to in the first place. It was our own pride. And I think what is, you know, some of the original lines in the chantry is, what has pride wrought? You know, something along those lines, right? And I don't think mankind has that answer, because it would be accepting responsibility for being the cause of our own demise, being 100% totally responsible for it. It's not God's fault. It was a matter of our choice, what we did. And instead of proving that we're better than our forefathers, we do things worse now, right? As we grow more and more ignorant while we call it knowledge, right?
I hear fighting ahead.
We're guilty of the same shit in this world, in this time, in this day and age. You know, we build the internet and we call ourselves knowledgeable, and we run around like idiots. We're acting more stupid now than we ever did before. With the more knowledge we have at our disposal, the stupider we get. It's crazy. It's totally backwards. It's upside down. But it is what it is, you know? I wonder if they're not making some kind of statement like that. I'm not trying to get too far out there, but just throwing it up there. Just kind of random, vague canvas here for you guys to throw some paint at and see if you can get a picture out of it. It's kind of the whole idea.
These are but remnants. They will not keep us from the Well of Sorrows.
Well of Sorrows.
Be honored. Witness death at the hands of a new god.
You know, that just sounded weak. That really does. It just sounded pathetic. Like, you know, if this dude wasn't so destructive, you just, you know, just like give him that I pity you look as you know, shoot him in the face and throw him in a ditch somewhere and let him rot. It's just pitiful, pathetic. When you give cowards and insecure weaklings that much power to wield when they obtain it and they shouldn't have it in the first place, and it's, wow. What's that phrase again? Look what pride hath wrought? I mean, seriously. What happened to the whole can't we all just get along thing? I mean, in other words, at some point, when does somebody stop and say, wait a minute, is this shit really necessary? All this? You know, like all this? Like, do we really need to go there? And, well, if it weren't for assholes like this, probably not. But the fact is that you have individuals like this that make this necessary.
Across the bridge.
Alright, so apparently the Elder One has the power of an Archdemon. The ability, this is why Grey Wardens are needed, to stop this right here from happening. This is what an Archdemon can do. He can just possess another vessel and go on and be all dragony and, you know, destroy the world type thing. So you have to have wardens that have a taste of Archdemon blood. They're able to basically negate that and cut that off somehow. The blood being a key. I think that'll become more and more relevant as time goes on and as we learn more. But anyway, we don't have
At last, Mythal's sanctum.
a warden here.
Let us proceed before Corypheus interferes.
You said Corypheus wanted an Illuvian, but he mentioned a Well of Sorrows. Which is right?
I am uncertain of what he referred to.
Huh? Morgan? What's that? What's that?
Could they be the same? Could Illuvian translate into Well of Sorrows?
No. It seems an Illuvian is not the prize Corypheus seeks.
That's right, Morgan. I'm gonna make you admit it. That's right.
Yes, I was wrong. Does that please you? Whatever the Well of Sorrows might be, Corypheus seeks it, and thus you must keep it from his grasp.
Well, ever being for real, though. That's the Morgan I know.
Let's find this well before Corypheus's people do.
She's always a sensible one.
I want to know how Corypheus returned to life. We saw him die.
And his life force passes on to any blighted creature, darkspawn, or Grey Warden.
So that's how the bastard survived, Hawk.
We'll find a way to stop Corypheus once we're done here.
'Tis strange. Archdemons possess the same ability, and still the Grey Wardens are able to slay them. Yet Corypheus, they locked away. Perhaps they knew he could do this, but not how.
Oh, I see the difference. Okay. They couldn't slay Corypheus like an Archdemon. He had the same kind of power, but that power couldn't be negated. I was about to ask, had a warden been present to stab Corypheus's new form through the heart right there before it was actually able to stand up and go all aggro again.
Yes.
Had that been able to stop him? I guess not, apparently.
Are you certain Corypheus is using the power of the Blight to make himself immortal?
Perhaps you forget. I was in Ferelden during the Fifth Blight. I have seen a true Archdemon rage. How Corypheus gained the power to send his soul into blighted bodies. That is the real question.
That is it. That's the question I was asking, vaguely.
Will
Ah,
answering
awesome.
that question let us destroy Corypheus for good?
Perhaps. I would suggest first dealing with the well. If Corypheus obtains it, any chance of success could be lost.
Do you know what this part of the temple was used for?
The room we stand in is a vestibule, not the temple proper. To those who knew it, perhaps this ritual was little more than a polite knock at the gate. These customs must have been as familiar to ancient elves as bowing to a queen is to you or I.
I find it difficult to picture you curtsying to anyone.
Have we become so familiar you can predict my manners and customs now? Nothing is lost by indulging in the occasional civilized conduct, particularly when unexpected.
You said this Mythal was worshipped as a goddess.
So one assumes. What is a god but a being of immense power? The dread old gods were nothing more than dragons, after all. They rise as archdemons, and they die. Perhaps Mythal was a powerful elf, a ruler among her kind. History often plays storyteller with facts.
You admit lack of knowledge, and yet dismiss her so readily?
I do not dismiss her. I question her supposed divinity. One need not be a god to have value. Truthfully, I'm uncertain Mythal was even a single entity. The accounts are varied.
There are varied accounts of Mythal.
In most stories, Mythal rights wrongs while exercising motherly kindness. Let fly your voice to Mythal, deliverer of justice, protector of sun and earth alike. Other paint her as dark, vengeful. Pray to Mythal and she would smite your enemies, leaving them in agony.
More Dalish tales, suitor.
If you know more about this, Solus, speak.
The oldest accounts say Mythal was both of these, and neither. She was the mother, protective and fierce. That is all I will say. This is not a place to stir up old stories.
Or maybe it is, Solus. What are you
All
hiding?
accounts of Mythal end the same. Exiled to the beyond with her brethren.
What do you mean, exile?
Tricked by the Dread Wolf, as all the elven gods were said to be, trapped in a land beyond the Fade. Many Dalish believe this is why the elves fell from grace, and their gods did not save them. Or perhaps they were simply rulers slain by Tevinter. Who can say?
You've seen the elves here. They seem odd.
Indeed. Two things are possible. One, this is a group of Dalish separated from their brethren, cultists, fanatic in their desire to keep humans away. Two, these are elves descended from the ancients, having resided here since before the fall of Arlathan. The second appears unlikely, but if true, the implications are astounding.
If they keep records, it could change everything we thought we knew about history.
It is thrilling, no? To discover an era thought lost forever has possibly thrived in the shadows. We may, however, find these elves reluctant to part with their long-kept secrets.
Alright, well, Solus, you know, if he has one fault, I think it's that...
See, the Venatori have already encountered the temple's guardians.
A just death for these mages. But where are the killers?
Preparing another display of hospitality, no doubt.
It's just a sense that I get that Solus maybe be hiding something, and that, you know, this is an error that men are guilty of, thinking that their cause is so important that they don't share it with the lessers, you know, who might just have some interest in things like, you know, something that might, you know, help solve the whole dilemma that we're dealing with here. But, yeah, you know, Solus, do share, please, if you have some divine knowledge that, you know, us lesser mortals aren't worthy to hear, or some crap like that, all stuck in your traditions. I really like Solus, but he is stuck in his thoughts and ways that when the truth hits him in the face, he's stubborn. He's too proud to admit it, and that same pride is what he would accuse men of having, but yet he has a bit of it himself, and I think that's a paradox that he struggles with.
It depicts the Dread Wolf, Fen Harel. In elven tales, he tricks their gods into sealing themselves away in the beyond for all time. Setting Fen Harel in Mythal's greatest sanctum is as blasphemous as painting Andraste naked in the chantry.
Actually, if the well, hold on a second, there's a bunch of dialogue right here.
Some chantries display statues of Andraste's betrayer Mathrath as part of the chant.
It might fulfill a similar function, a reminder of vigilance.
For all your knowledge, Lady Morrigan, you cannot resist giving legend the weight of history. The wise do not mistake one for the other.
Pray tell, what meaning does our elven expert sense lurking behind this?
None we can discern by staring at it.
We can send for historians once peace is brought to this forest.
The inhabitants of this temple may not appreciate guests.
Alright, but, okay, elven lore may be just as flawed as human lore or history.
Managed to open it. Perhaps the altar holds a clue.
Morgan, you sure have a lot to say while not saying anything. Solus too, actually.
Still strong.
Is this elven? Does it say anything about this Well of Sorrows?
Atishol vir Abalasan. It means enter the path of the Well of Sorrows.
There is something about knowledge, respectful or pure. Shivenen. 'Tis all I can translate. That it mentions the well is a good omen.
At least we know the Well of Sorrows was important.
Supplicants to Mythal would have first paid obeisance here. Following their path may aid entry.
Why does this remind me of that line from The
A ritual
Matrix?
to appease elven gods? Long dead or no, I don't like it.
If need be, unless you wish to turn back.
Something about, it's one thing to know the path, another thing to walk the path, or something along those lines. That's what this reminds me of for whatever reason. But, you can't veer from the path, you can't backtrack.
Do not
No
step
stepping
any
back.
place you have stepped before. There can be no vacillation. This is where petitioners walked the path of their gods.
It is where they paid fealty to the gods. I have seen it, in the Fade. Only the reverent were permitted to touch this ground, and only in solemn contemplation.
Okay, well I must have been reverent enough or something.
Yes.
But, there we go.
Let's continue.
As you wish.
Oh, a heads up, I lost a whole entire clip. One of the bigger parts of the puzzles, I apparently ended it when I thought I started it, and vice versa, and just lost an entire section. So we're going to be skipping some of this puzzle part, because it was essentially right here in the middle, and then at the end of it, I realized there was a whole chunk missing. I was like, really? Anyway, sorry about that, guys. It's cool, nothing lore-related missing, just solving one of the bigger puzzles, which I did struggle with. I actually messed it up a couple times, so I finally figured it out.
Don't let them pass!
Yeah, so I guess these are her personal loyal Venatori. I think we'll kick their ass just the same. I'm no respecter of Venatori. One's as good as the other as far as I'm concerned. Much Fey Touch stuff. There we go. Okay, I was about to say there's an enemy around here somewhere. What you doing hiding over there, buddy? But time to come out and play.
Come on, we might catch them.
Hold a moment. While they rush ahead, this leads to our true destination. We should walk the petitioner's path as before.
An army fights and dies for us. The longer we tarry, the more soldiers we lose outside. Let's jump down and be done with this place.
In this case, I must agree with the witch. This is ancient ground, deserving of our respect.
You see the urgency? We cannot find the Well of Sorrows unprepared.
We don't know what's behind those doors. They might have a reason for going another way.
Had they the option, they would have proceeded. That must lead to their goal.
Their goal? Or yours?
There is a danger to the natural order. Legends walked Thedas once, things of might and wonder. Their passing has left us all the lesser. Corypheus would squander the ancient power of the well. I would have it restored.
I wasn't expecting your answer to be so romantic.
Trust me, your surprise is matched only by my own. Mankind blunders through the world, crushing what it does not understand. Elves, dragons, magic. The list is endless. We must stem the tide, or be left with nothing more than the mundane. This I know to be true. I read more in the first chamber than I revealed.
Of course you
It
did.
said a great boon is given to those who use the Well of Sorrows, but at a terrible price.
What exactly did that altar say about the Well of Sorrows?
Like most elven writing, it was insufferably vague. The term I deciphered was Halam Shivanas, the sweet sacrifice of duty. It implies the loss of something personal for duty's sake, yet for those who served at this temple, a worthwhile trade.
Did you not trust me enough to tell me about this price when you read it?
I hoped to find more information. If I intended to cheat you, I would have feigned ignorance entirely. My priority is your cause, but if the opportunity arises to save this well, I am willing to pay the cost.
And gain what?
That is what we must discover. The rituals may point the way.
So, if the BioWare writers have a maker entity, force, not necessarily a being or a person, right? But more of a concept, an ideal, like light as opposed to darkness. If it's just be something just so vague, open, ethereal, and random as that, whatever the case may be. If that's the case, and that puppet master is essentially behind the scenes, moving events that are beyond the knowledge, right? It can't even be recognized by man, much less orchestrated by man, right? Moving around all these pieces and making everything dance to a certain tune to bring about, you know, good things in general. It may not seem so at the time, but in the long run, they are, or they're for the greater good, or whatever you want to call it.
Will you abandon these rituals, Inquisitor? Think carefully.
Oh, no, I'm looking around, Morgan. Shut up.
Once we follow the Venatori.
But, yeah, I know, point of no return, blah, blah, blah. You don't have to remind me. But, if that's the case, and then there be a force of darkness, whatever it's called, a BioWare devil, right? Whatever title you want to put on it, where even the old gods, whatever they are, you know, what is it? The temple we just went to, where we found that mage, and we found all those shards. Dumat? Anyway, whatever. You know, the old gods, if they themselves were just like puppets, just tools.
The elven goddess Ondrul, Lady of the Hunt.
Or a goddess of sacrifice, according to some.
Truly? I wonder if that is why Ondrul's patron animal is the hare. 'Tis said the Dalish invoke her before a chase, especially if they happen to be stalking humans.
Humans clash with elves all the time. There's blood on both sides.
I do not favor either. One hears things in an Orlesian court. Many Orlesian commanders consider skirmishes against the Dalish excellent sport.
And here was the big puzzle. I remember my solution involved some intentional backtracking. But yeah, I just totally lost that clip. Sorry about that. I meant to splice it right into this one and just disappeared. Anyway, my bad. But anyway, if that's the case, what if Morrigan, as devious or whatever as she appears to be, and she herself may even think herself to be, I don't know. But what if she is essentially, you know, being, her strings are being pulled by the Maker, or BioWare's version of the Maker.
Come, let us see if the
Whatever that may be. You know what I mean? Like, what if Flemeth is Mythal, or some residue of Mythal's being that is passed on, similar in power to what the Elder One and the Archdemons can do, but on the other side of the coin, not a dark version, but a light version of that same power. Mythal and maybe the Dread Wolf and the Ancients, right? As perhaps the elves were the original children of the Maker, right? And having fallen, you know, humankind and Canary and the elves as we see today, and the dwarves and something having stemmed from that, being broken pieces of the whole, or something. I don't know. I may be deviating from lore because I'm not as familiar with it as maybe I should be, and some of you lore aficionados could clarify that or say, no, that doesn't ring true. But whatever, just kind of throwing ideas out there. But anyway, what if those strings that are being pulled, Mythal herself is somewhat of a tool of that, or just another, you know, cog in the machine to bring about the eventual light in the world, whereas whatever puppet master is pulling the strings of individuals like the Elder One would bring darkness on the world. You know what I'm saying? And so Morrigan is essentially a product of Flemeth. Exactly what she's supposed to be. As devious it may seem at the time, I don't know. I think there's a reason Morrigan is kind of the face of the franchise. I think there's a reason for that. I think that reason is yet to be seen.
Vernavis, you are unlike the other invaders. You stumble down our paths at the side of one of our own. You bear the mark of magic, which is familiar. How has this come to pass? What is your connection to those who first disturbed our slumber?
They are my enemies, as well as yours.
I am called Abelas. We are Sentinels, tasked with standing against those who trespass on sacred ground. We wake only to fight, to preserve this place. Our numbers diminish with each invasion. I know what you seek. Like all who have come before you, you wish to drink from the Vira Belasan.
The place of the Way of Sorrows. He speaks of the well.
It is not for you. It is not for any of you.
So, you're elves from ancient times, before the Tevinter Imperium destroyed Arlathan.
The Shemlin did not destroy Arlathan. We Elven warred upon ourselves. By the time the doors to this sanctuary closed, our time was over. We awaken only when called, and each time find the world more foreign than before. It is meaningless. We endure. The Vira Belasan must be preserved.
What is this Vira Belasan exactly?
It is a path. One walked only by those who toiled in Mythal's favor.
He speaks of priests, perhaps.
More than that, you need not know.
Solus, perhaps he'll listen to you.
What shall I say, Inquisitor? Shall I sway him from a millennia of service by virtue of our shared blood? He clings to all that remains of his world, because he lacks the power to restore it.
We did not come here to fight you, nor to steal from your temple.
I believe you. Trespassers you are, but you have followed rites of petition. You have shown respect to Mythal. If these others are enemies of yours, we will aid you in destroying them. When this is done, you shall be permitted to depart. And never return.
This is our goal, is it not? There is no reason to fight these Sentinels.
Consider carefully. You must stop Corypheus, yes, but you may also need the well for your own.
We've come this far, right?
I accept your offer.
You will be guided to those you seek. As for the Vira Belasan, it shall not be despoiled, even if I must destroy it myself.
No!
Morgan!
Okay, Morgan. Alright, I know you can fight that guy, but not really having to. I don't know if it's just because we have Solus here with us, maybe. Are you aware of what we were just straight up told by the writers there, though? Is that Solus himself is an ancient elf. And I'm only saying that because these aren't elves. These are ancient elves. There's a difference. And however relevant that is, I don't know. But he just himself acknowledged Solus as one of his own.
Mythal asked. That's helpful, since Morrigan chased off on her own.
She seeks to protect the Well of Sorrows.
Now, if Sarah was with me, or if I was playing an elf here, would he have referred to Sarah or I the same way? If that's the case, then it was just being an elf in general. But I don't think so. I think I get the impression that that was a revelation of Solus, who and what he actually is.
This place looks
now look at this. The Judgment of Mythal. This tells you about Mythal's character, as she could read the hearts of men and judge them accordingly. If someone wished evil on another person but pretended to seek vengeance, she would know their motives in their heart and destroy them instead. But if someone sought mercy, she would give them mercy. And so she was a judge, reading the hearts of men, and so on and so forth.
The entire temple must have looked like this long ago. How could the elves pour such devotion into this nonsense?
We can always ask our hosts.
I will leave that to you.
But that is going to be extremely relevant in Flemeth's dealings with Morgan in a short scene later. And I'll try to remember to point that out when we get there. But it came back to me, and I was like, I had heard something about Flemeth being Mythal, essentially, or the extension of Mythal. You know, Mythal having passed on from one to the next. In Origins, we were led to believe it was by her devouring her daughters and doing this corrupt blood magic, funky stuff, chastened legends, and all this other superstitious stuff. And I think there was a core of truth hidden by a lot of superstition. That's the impression I get. I'm not exactly sure on that. What I think is Mythal is essentially passing on from one to the next. Did they need to be dead people, or could she just essentially go on to a willing host or something like that, similar to demonic possession, I guess, but not exactly, and essentially just extending her life by the next person? Or could she reanimate the dead? I don't think so. I think that's how the Darkspawn, I think that's how the evil side works, reanimating that which is corrupt, as being a more fitting host for someone like the Elder One or an Archdemon or something like that. Whereas, for lack of a better term, the holy, or those that are divine or blessed or whatever, getting off into the ancients and stuff, such as like a Mythal or a Dreadwolf or what have you, perhaps the passing along has to be to a living person.
I believe she would prefer that we remain close.
And that it's not like sacrifice, blood magic, and demonic possession, but it's more like just taking up the persona of another person and carrying on that lifespan. And I think it's something along the lines of the duty that's being talked about here at the Well of Mythal. That's what she requests. She requests a love and a devotion, not a kind of power-seeking blood sacrifice. Possess me so I can destroy the world. I think it's more of, yes, I'll be your vessel. Pass along into me. And maybe this whole well thing is the same type of principle. Maybe what's operating here at the well is the same type of thing that is used by those who go along with the Maker's plan, to pass the knowledge and presence of light and whatever wisdom is passed along to do good stuff. Maybe that's the means by which it is done. Being different than the corruption that comes along with, the Darkspawn and their whole thing. Just, I don't know. Trying to put two and two together here, if nothing else. But these things, these mosaics here, giving, I think, true history. not corrupted by men, not corrupted by superstitions passed down over time, you know, from one hand to the next, but this being essentially the source, this being history at the source, before, you know, bias and political agendas and the erosion of time, you know, stealing knowledge and replacing it with ignorance. Here I think this is the real deal, the scoop. If you read these mosaics here, it's worth coming back through and studying them in detail. In fact, if I do start another character, I really want to build a DPS berserker. Like I say, similar to this one, but just purely geared towards. I'm curious what kind of numbers I can come up with. Really, nothing else. Played through the game, got the achievements, and there's really not a whole lot left to do but experiment with some builds and stuff. And I think this one was solid, but I think with one or two pieces of equipment, just maybe reallocating a few skill points here and there, could be pretty brutal, man. Pretty stout. Lots of loot to be found here. Of course, everything but the engraved battle axe, right? Can't have that. Oh no. These guys were a little more stout than your average Venatori. Put it this way, I'm what, 3 or 4 levels too high and they were still giving me XP for killing them, so yeah. Didn't have to come in here, but the noise kind of attracted me, and I was kind of looking around with the Balefire also, seeing how many of the hidden little runes or whatever, glyphs, things that I could find. Don't know if I found them all. To be honest, right about this point, I was kind of eager to just get to the end of it, you know, put an end to all this. Be finished with it. Not with the game, but to see the end, to see how things turned out and stuff. But I did think this was really cool, coming through this temple, because I think... and it's a shame that the true history isn't meant to be seen by mortal eyes. You know what I mean? Like, this stuff is hidden away, like, we'll keep the truth to ourselves. And wow, isn't that the nature of man right there? Is, can't trust anyone else with it, we'll keep it all to ourselves. And then it just gets lost, and then it's replaced by imaginations and things that do twice as much harm than the truth would have ever done, you know?
So Mythal endures.
Andraste, guide.
Did you hear that? Mythal endures. Mythal herself. Does Mythal pass along herself through this well? Like I say, similar, but a kind of like a pure or uncorrupted version of what the Elder One just did with that corpse. Okay, these Venatori are going to pay for that. I know that. Look at that. That's beautiful.
The well knows its vessel, and those who would despoil it. Stand aside, Inquisitor. The trials you set me, I have overcome. As a courtesy, leave now. Or not at all.
Your lust for power has blinded you, Calpurnia. Corypheus is using you.
Think on your own folly before inventing more. You serve your people, you have one last chance to save them. The Well of Sorrows overflows with knowledge. Power abandoned by those the elves worshipped as gods. To walk the Fade without the anchor. That is what the Well of Sorrows will give Corypheus.
If that's the case, why isn't Corypheus clawing at the well?
I will carry it like a jug brimming for his use. Can you not see? I knew you would take the well for yourself. To ransack its wisdom, to try to defeat Corypheus. But you'd still be just a child, playing with a sword. Corypheus will wield it as a master.
Once you've drunk from the well, Corypheus will use a ritual on you. You'll be a mindless tool, enslaved to his will.
That... where I come from, idle tales must be proven.
Here, the page with his binding ritual. He tried it on your master, Erasthenes.
How could you know? And these runes, no one has written in these since... He made so many promises, and everyone alive! Then he this cavern vast! He was to give Tevinter a true leader. If Corypheus would misuse me, he'd misuse them too. I was blind.
That's why you joined Corypheus, to see Tevinter rebuilt.
To see her reborn. Slaves allowed their true potential, corruption excised. Tevinter was the cradle of civilization. Imagine what her future could be. A crafter of wonders, standing against the savage Kunari. A beacon for all.
Perhaps Tevinter does need a strong leader. Be that woman while you can.
You mock me, Inquisitor, as if you'd let me walk away.
The Inquisitor is showing you great mercy, mage. Do not waste it.
If Corypheus triumphs. Listen, if any power can challenge him, it lies in the well. Perhaps its price is too high, but if you can take it, humble him. Vitae Benefaria, Inquisitor. Do not follow us. I will give you some time. I go to confront my master. Then I will return to Tevinter. If there is anything left of me.
A slaveless Tevinter free of corruption. Sounds like better motives than what they've got operating there now. Honestly, that's kind of what I heard in that. I may have just said a mad woman loose, but seriously, sounded like she had better plans than what the Tevinter mages that are there now have.
You heard his parting words, Inquisitor. The elf seeks to destroy the Well of Sorrows.
So the sanctum is despoiled at last.
You would have destroyed the well yourself, given the chance.
To keep it from your grasping fingers. Better it be lost than bestowed upon the undeserving.
Fool. You'd let your people's legacy rot in the shadows.
Corypheus needed Calpurnia to use the well. Without her, there's no vessel to claim it.
The moment we leave, he will send more forces to secure this place. The well clearly offers power, Inquisitor. If that power can be turned against Corypheus, can you afford not to use it?
Do you even know what you ask? As each servant of Mythal reached the end of their years, they would pass their knowledge on through this. All that we were, all that we knew, it would be lost forever.
It's better that knowledge remain in the well, never passed on. You'd rather destroy it.
There are other places, friend, other duties. Your people yet linger.
Elven such as you?
Yes, such as I.
You have shown respect to Mythal, and there is a righteousness in you I cannot deny. Is that your desire? To partake of the Vira Belasan as best you can? To fight your enemy?
Be respectful.
Not without your permission.
One does not obtain permission. One obtains the right.
Well said. This dude's cool, man.
Brave it if you must. But know you this. You shall be bound forever to the will of Mythal.
Bound to a goddess who no longer exists, if she ever did.
Bound as we are bound. The choice is yours.
Is it possible this Mythal might still exist?
Anything is possible.
Elven legend states that Mythal was tricked by Fen Harel and banished to the Beyond.
Elven legend is wrong. The Dread Wolf had nothing to do with her murder.
I said nothing of...
She was slain, if a god truly can be. Betrayed by those who destroyed this temple. Yet the Virabala-san remains. As do we. That is something.
Are you leaving the temple?
Our duty ends. Why remain?
There is a place for you, Lethaline, if you seek it.
Perhaps there are places the Shemlin have not touched. It may be that only Uthenera awaits us. The blissful sleep of eternity never to awaken, if fate is kind.
Thank you for this gift, Abelas.
Do not thank me yet, Shemlin.
Malas Amalin Nahalam Abalas.
I really like that guy, actually, man. He's cool. Glad I didn't have to fight him here.
Abalas means sorrow. I said, I hoped he finds a new name.
You'll note the intact Illuvian. I was correct on that count, at least.
Is it still a threat? Can Corypheus use it to travel the Fade?
You recall when I took you through my Illuvian, I said each required a key? The well is the key. Take its power, and Mythal's last Illuvian will be no more use to Corypheus than glass. I did not expect the well to feel so... hungry.
Let's not be reckless. I don't want anyone hurt.
I am willing to pay the price the well demands. I am also the best suited to use its knowledge in your service.
Or more likely to your own ends?
What would you know of my ends, elf?
You are a glutton drooling at the sight of a feast. You cannot be trusted.
Tell us how you really feel, Solus.
I alone have the training to make use of this. Let me drink, Inquisitor.
What training makes you so qualified?
I have studied the oldest lore. I have delved into mysteries of which you could only dream. Can you honestly tell me there is anyone better suited?
I also think it might humble you a bit. Honestly, it's not such a bad idea.
No. Do not ask me again.
Well, okay. Well, settles that.
Perhaps you're right.
I am. You know I am.
You're not concerned about the price. Bound forever to the will of Mythal.
Bound to the will of a dead god? It seems an empty warning. Perhaps a compulsion yet remains. Who can say otherwise? I do not fear it, even so.
I hate to say it, but Abelas's plan to destroy the well may be the best one.
What happens when Corypheus comes for you again? He is immortal. The wisdom of the well may include a way to destroy him. Give me this and I fight at your side. I shall be your sword.
Thoughts?
She is right about only one thing. We should take the power which lies in that well.
If it is truly between you and her, then let her take the risk. Make her help us all.
You're asking me? This is a lot of weird... I barely understand how any of this works.
Enough deliberation. Give me your decision.
Looking at it, listening to it. That's not just knowledge from the ancient elven priests. It's their will.
How would you know such a thing?
That's what Abelas was telling us. The collective will of the priests puts anyone who drinks under a compulsion, a gas, Can't you feel it?
That would match the legends, but it does not tell us what the gas entails. I would still use the well, but you are right. We must be cautious.
It's yours.
Now, if I think about it, Flemeth and Morgan saved the Warden, right? And then Flemeth saves Honk. And then Morgan, once again, fighting the Elder One. I mean, well, we're on the same side. So if Morgan's wrong, maybe we are too?
Morgan! Are you alright?
Elasin Salah. Visan Allah.
What is she saying there? That's got to be relevant. Those words right there.
I am intact.
First words out of her mouth. Damn it.
There's much to sift through. But now we can...
Yo, Elder One, suck on this empty well. How about that? Biatch. I'd say fly both pigeons. Give them both birds as we walk out the door. Thumbing our noses at him. Nah. All you hear is, your mom! As we jump through the Illuvian. Foiled again. So this is where it led, huh? Interesting. Did Morgan gain control of that Illuvian from the well to send us straight here? That implies a certain will and direction there that I don't think she previously had. I don't know. She definitely found what she was looking for, I think. But I think she found a lot more, too.
I'm pleased to report we won the battle, Inquisitor. When you went through that mirror, Corypheus and his archdemon fled the field. I'm not sure why.
What he wanted was no longer within the temple.
Perhaps. He spent so long trying to get into the temple, he probably couldn't have helped his forces by that point.
Then Corypheus is finished.
If he is wise, he will hide and rebuild his strength before he attacks again.
He will not hide.
You sound pretty certain when you say that.
The Well of Sorrows held many voices, and they speak to me now from across the ages. They hold wisdom, secrets I never dreamed possible. But even they fear what Corypheus has become.
Should we fear him more than his army?
Possibly. Luckily for you, he has a weakness. The dragon he calls is not truly an archdemon. It is a dragon in which Corypheus has invested part of his being. He doubtless did so out of pride to emulate the gods of old. That pride can be exploited. Kill the dragon, and his ability to leap into other bodies is disrupted. He can be slain.
You're sure? If there are no bodies for him to jump to...
You assume there is a limit to the range of his power. There is not.
Then what do you propose? Killing the dragon is no simple task, if it could even be found.
There is a way to defeat the dragon, to match Corypheus in his power. The well whispers it to me now. Your help will be required, Inquisitor. Speak to me when you are ready, and we shall begin.
I'll see to Skyhold's defenses in the meantime.
All right, and that's what we'll do, y'all. Go kick the Elder One directly in his butt. Sounds like a plan to me. All right, thanks for watching. Know it was kind of a long one, but thought we'd go ahead and get to this point, and then we'll have the end of the game on the next one. Y'all take care. You want to subscribe? Click that button up on top. Until later. All right, catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.